What if I told you that almost everything you think you know about space came from movies written by people who failed high school physics? From explosive misconceptions to gravitational gaslighting, we're about to shatter 30 of the most persistent, ridiculous, and dangerously wrong myths about the universe. Strap in. Your childhood is about to get obliterated.
Myth number 1. Explosions make sound in space. Every space movie ever made, massive explosions, dramatic booms, starships going whoosh as they fly past, it's thrilling, it's intense, and it's completely impossible. Space is a vacuum. No air means no sound waves, period. In reality, a spaceship explosion would be utterly silent. You'd see the flash, the debris, maybe feel the shockwave if you're close enough, but you'd hear absolutely nothing. Movies add sound because silent explosions feel wrong to audiences. Our brains expect sound with visuals, but physics doesn't care about your expectations. Real space battles would be eerily, disturbingly quiet. The silence would actually be more terrifying, but apparently not as marketable. Myth number 2, you'd instantly freeze in space. Hollywood loves the instant freeze death. Someone gets ejected into space and immediately turns into a human popsicle. Dramatic, but wrong. Space is cold, but it's also a vacuum, which means there's nothing to conduct heat away from your body quickly. You'd actually die from lack of oxygen in about 15 seconds, but freezing would take hours. Your body would eventually radiate heat away and freeze solid, but it's a slow process. The real immediate dangers are decompression, oxygen deprivation, and the dissolved gases in your blood forming bubbles. You wouldn't shatter like frozen glass, you'd suffocate first. Less cinematic, more accurate, equally deadly. Myth number 3, the sun is yellow. Ask anyone to draw the sun and they'll grab a yellow crayon. We've been conditioned since kindergarten to believe our star is yellow or orange. It's not. The sun is actually white. It emits all colors of light roughly equally, which combines to appear white. We see it as yellow or orange because Earth's atmosphere scatters blue light, leaving the warmer colors. In space, the sun appears brilliant white. This myth is so embedded that even NASA's early illustrations showed a yellow sun. We've collectively agreed on a color that doesn't exist. Your childhood drawings lied to you, and so did everyone else's.
Myth number 4. The dark side of the moon is always dark. Pink Floyd made it legendary. Everyone knows there's a mysterious dark side of the moon that never sees sunlight, a permanent night side that's cold and forbidding. Except there isn't. The moon rotates, just slowly. Every part of the moon gets sunlight. What people call the dark side is actually the far side, the hemisphere we never see from Earth because the moon is tidally locked. But it gets just as much sunlight as the near side. During a new moon, the far side is fully illuminated. The term dark meant unknown or hidden, not literally dark. Somehow this got lost in translation and we ended up with generations thinking there's a permanent shadow side. Myth number 5. Asteroid belts are dense and dangerous. Every sci-fi movie, our heroes must navigate the treacherous asteroid belt, dodging massive rocks every second in a desperate weaving flight pattern. Looks amazing. Completely fabricates reality. The asteroid belt is mostly empty space. The asteroids are separated by hundreds of thousands or even millions of kilometers. If you were in the asteroid belt, you'd probably have to search deliberately to even see another asteroid with your naked eye. NASA routinely sends probes through it without any special maneuvering. The chance of randomly hitting an asteroid is essentially zero. The belt isn't a cosmic obstacle course, it's a mostly empty region with some rocks scattered incredibly far apart. Myth number 6. Mars is red all over. Mars, the red planet, rusted, dusty, uniformly red from pole to pole, right? Not quite. While Mars does have a lot of iron oxide, rust, giving it an overall reddish tint, the surface is actually quite varied in color. Close-up images from rovers show browns, tans, golds, even patches of gray and darker volcanic rock. The Martian sky can appear butterscotch or blue depending on atmospheric conditions and time of day. Polar ice caps are white. Ancient lava flows are nearly black. The red planet branding was marketing from astronomers who observed it from Earth. Up close, Mars is a watercolor painting, not a monochrome rust bucket. Myth number 7. You'd explode in space without a spacesuit. The ultimate space horror. Exposure to vacuum causes your body to explode like a balloon.
Your blood boils instantly, your eyes pop out, you become a grotesque meat explosion. Arnold Schwarzenegger's bulging eyes in Total Recall sealed this image in our minds forever. Reality is less explosive, but still fatal. Your body wouldn't rupture because skin is tough enough to hold you together against vacuum pressure. The moisture on your tongue and eyes would boil due to low pressure, not heat. You'd swell up somewhat, but you wouldn't pop. You'd lose consciousness in about 15 seconds and die within a couple of minutes. NASA actually did accidental vacuum exposure tests. One guy's suit failed in a chamber. He survived with no permanent damage. Deadly, yes. Explosive watermelon death? No. Myth number 8. The Great Wall of China is visible from space. This myth is so pervasive we already covered it in history myths. But it's specifically a space myth too. Astronauts repeatedly debunk this. You can't see the Great Wall of China from space with the naked eye. It's too narrow and blends into the landscape. You can see cities, large bodies of water, and major geographic features, but a 6-meter wide wall? Forget it. The myth persists because it sounds impressive and nobody bothers asking actual astronauts. Chris Hadfield, who spent months in space, flat out said it's invisible from orbit. But somehow, you can't see the Great Wall of China from space? Never goes viral. Myth number 9. Black holes are cosmic vacuum cleaners. Black holes suck everything around them into oblivion, right? They're insatiable vacuum cleaners, destroying everything nearby, growing forever until they consume the universe. Terrifying concept, terrible physics. Black holes have strong gravity, but only if you're extremely close. If the sun suddenly became a black hole, which it can't, but hypothetically, Earth's orbit wouldn't change at all. The mass is the same, so the gravitational pull at Earth's distance stays the same. Black holes only suck things in if they get within the evident horizon. From a safe distance, they're just really, really heavy objects with normal gravitational behavior. They're not cosmic monsters hunting for prey, they're just sitting there being really, really heavy.
Myth number 10. Shooting stars are actually stars. Make a wish on a shooting star! Except shooting stars aren't stars at all. They're tiny pieces of rock or dust, usually smaller than a grain of sand, burning up in Earth's atmosphere at incredible speeds. Actual stars are massive balls of nuclear fusion millions or billions of kilometers away. They don't shoot across the sky. They're essentially stationary from our perspective. What we call shooting stars are meteors, and most are debris left behind by comets. They create those beautiful streaks of light not because they're magical, but because friction with our atmosphere incinerates them. You're wishing on cosmic dust, which is actually kind of poetic. Myth number 11. There's no gravity in space. Astronauts float in the International Space Station, so there must be no gravity up there, right? Wrong. There's plenty of gravity. That's literally what keeps the ISS in orbit. They're not floating because there's no gravity. They're floating because they're in continuous free fall. The ISS is constantly falling toward Earth, but it's also moving forward fast enough that it keeps missing. That's what an orbit is, falling sideways forever. The gravity at ISS altitude is about 90% as strong as on Earth's surface. Astronauts experience weightlessness because they and their spacecraft are falling at the same rate. It's not zero gravity, it's microgravity, the sensation of perpetual falling. There's gravity pretty much everywhere in the universe. Myth number 12. The Big Bang was an explosion in space. The term Big Bang makes everyone picture a massive explosion in empty space with matter flying outward from a central point. That's not what happened. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion in space, it was an expansion of space itself. There was no center point, no outside for it to expand into. Space itself began expanding, carrying matter with it. Every point in the universe was the center. It's less like a bomb going off and more like a balloon inflating, except the balloon is all of reality and there's nothing outside it. This is genuinely hard to visualize because our brains aren't designed for it, so we default to the explosion metaphor, but the metaphor is wrong. Myth number 13. Astronauts are floating in space on the ISS. Connected to the gravity myth, we see astronauts floating and think they're just peacefully hovering in some calm environment. They're actually screaming around Earth at 28,000 kilometers per hour.
circling the planet every 90 minutes. They experience 16 sunrises and sunsets every day. They're not calmly floating in some serene void. They're on a bullet train of a space station hurtling through the upper atmosphere in constant controlled falling. It just looks peaceful because everything in the station is falling at the same speed. The reality is violently fast, but appears gracefully slow. Myth number 14. Mercury is the hottest planet. Mercury is closest to the sun, so obviously it's the hottest planet, right? Wrong. Venus is hotter. Mercury's daytime temperature reaches about 430 degrees Celsius, but Venus maintains a consistent 465 degrees Celsius surface temperature day and night. Venus has a runaway greenhouse effect, with an atmosphere that's 96% carbon dioxide and surface pressure 92 times greater than Earth's. It traps heat so efficiently that it's hotter than Mercury despite being much farther from the sun. Mercury actually gets cold at night, dropping to negative 180 degrees Celsius because it has almost no atmosphere to retain heat. Proximity to the sun doesn't automatically mean hottest. Atmospheres matter. Myth number 15. Polaris has always been the North Star. Polaris, the North Star, eternal guide for navigators throughout human history, unchanging and constant. Except it hasn't always been and won't always be the North Star. Earth's axis wobbles in a 26,000-year cycle called precession. About 5,000 years ago, the star Thuban in the constellation Draco was the North Star. In 12,000 years, Vega will be the North Star. Polaris just happens to be roughly aligned with Earth's axis right now. Ancient Egyptian pyramids were aligned with a completely different North Star. Nothing in the cosmos is permanent, not even our most reliable celestial landmark.
Myth number 16. Space is completely empty. We call it outer space and the void, implying it's totally empty nothingness. Actually, space is full of stuff, just really spread out. There's cosmic radiation, solar wind, interstellar gas, dust, particles, electromagnetic fields, and more. Even empty intergalactic space contains about 1 atom per cubic meter. That's incredibly sparse by Earth standards, but it's not nothing. Plus, there's all that mysterious dark matter and dark energy that makes up most of the universe's mass and energy. Space isn't empty, it's just incredibly, almost incomprehensibly sparse. It's like saying the ocean is empty because you can't see all the dissolved salt. Myth 17. Satellites stay in space forever once launched. Launch a satellite and it'll orbit forever, right? That's why space is getting crowded with junk. Actually, many satellites in low Earth orbit experience atmospheric drag and gradually slow down and fall. Without periodic boosts, they'll eventually re-enter the atmosphere and burn up. The ISS requires regular boosts to maintain altitude. Only satellites in very high orbits, like geostationary orbit, 36,000 kilometers up, can stay up almost indefinitely. Low-orbit satellites have limited lifespans unless actively maintained. Space isn't a permanent parking lot. It's more like a parking meter that eventually runs out. Myth 18. Our sun will explode when it dies. Our sun will eventually explode in a supernova, destroying the solar system in a spectacular cosmic fireworks display. Dramatic end to everything we know. Also completely wrong. Our sun isn't massive enough to go supernova. In about 5 billion years, it'll expand into a red giant, likely engulfing Mercury, Venus, and possibly Earth. Then it'll shed its outer layers into a planetary nebula and leave behind a white dwarf, a dense, Earth-sized remnant that'll slowly cool over trillions of years. It's less explosive death and more slow retirement into quiet obscurity. Our sun's death will be tragic, but not explosive. Only stars at least 8 to 10 times more massive than our sun can go supernova.
Myth number 19. Astronauts train underwater for zero gravity. The iconic images of astronauts training in massive pools, that's them practicing for weightlessness in space, right? Sort of, but not really. Water doesn't simulate zero gravity, it simulates neutral buoyancy. You're still feeling gravity underwater, you're just balanced so you don't sink or float. Your inner ear still works normally. True microgravity feels completely different because there's no up or down, no sensation of weight at all. The pool training, called Neutral Buoyancy Lab, is useful for practicing procedures and getting comfortable in spacesuits, but it doesn't actually prepare your body for how weightlessness feels. That's what the vomit comet parabolic flights are for, brief periods of actual freefall. Myth number 20. You can see the whole Earth from the moon. Stand on the moon and you can see the entire beautiful Earth hanging in space, right? Actually, no. From the moon's surface, Earth appears about 4 times larger than the moon appears from Earth, but you still only see one hemisphere at a time. You can't see the whole Earth any more than you can see the whole moon from Earth. Roughly half is visible, the other half is in darkness or facing away. The famous Earthrise photo from Apollo 8 shows a partial Earth, not the complete globe. To see the full Earth as a complete sphere, you'd need to be much farther away. The famous blue marble photo was taken from about 29,000 kilometers away, not from the lunar surface. Myth number 21. NASA spent millions developing a space pen that could write in zero gravity, while the Russians simply used pencils. It's a perfect parable about bureaucratic waste versus practical solutions. It's also completely false. The Fisher space pen was developed independently by Paul Fisher with private funding, not NASA money. He spent about $1 million of his own money developing it. Both NASA and the Russian space program eventually bought the pens because they worked better than pencils. Pencils in space are actually dangerous. Broken tips and graphite dust can float into eyes or equipment and conduct electricity. The space pen story is fiction, used to criticize NASA, but the real story shows private innovation solving a genuine problem. Myth number 22. The moon landing was faked. We have to address this. The claim that the moon landings were filmed in a studio has been thoroughly debunked by scientists, engineers, and even the Mythbusters. The evidence that we went is overwhelming. We have moon rocks that are isotopically distinct from Earth rocks. We have retroreflectors on the moon that scientists use for laser ranging experiments. Thousands of people worked on Apollo. Keeping a conspiracy that big secret would be impossible. The Soviets, our space race enemies, never disputed it. Modern satellites have photographed the landing sites. The amount of technology, coordination, and silence required to fake it would be harder than actually going. We went to the moon. The conspiracy theory is easier to believe than the logistics of the conspiracy itself. Myth 23. Uranus is pronounced Uranus. Okay, this is part space fact, part linguistic myth. Everyone snickers at Uranus because we pronounce it your-anus. But astronomers and scientists actually pronounce it Uranus or Uranus to avoid the obvious joke. The name comes from the Greek god Uranos, and the proper pronunciation reflects that etymology. The juvenile pronunciation became standard in English-speaking countries, causing endless grief for astronomy teachers and a proposal to rename the planet entirely. So technically, you've been mispronouncing it for comedic effect. The correct way doesn't sound like a butt joke at all. Science tried to save us from ourselves, but the jokes won. Myth number 24. The flag flaps in the wind on the moon. Moon landing conspiracy theorists point to the flag appearing to wave and say, aha, there's no atmosphere on the moon, so no wind. Fake. They're wrong about the conclusion, but right about no wind. The flag appears to move because it has a horizontal rod along the top to keep it extended, otherwise it would just hang limp with no atmosphere. When astronauts planted it and rotated it into position, the motion made it oscillate. It's not waving continuously, it's just swaying from being moved, and it keeps moving longer because there's no air resistance to stop it quickly. The waving is actually proof it's in a vacuum, not proof it's fake. Myth 25. Jupiter failed to become a star. Jupiter is often called a failed star. If it was just a bit bigger, it would have ignited nuclear fusion and become a star instead of a planet. This sounds reasonable, but undersells how far Jupiter is from starhood. Jupiter would need to be about 80 times more massive to sustain hydrogen fusion and become a red dwarf star. It's not almost a star, it's nowhere close. Jupiter has 0.1% the mass of our Sun. Even brown dwarfs, which are failed stars by definition, need to be at least 13 times Jupiter's mass. Jupiter isn't a failed star, it's a very successful gas giant that never had a realistic shot at stardom. It's like saying a house cat is a failed lion. Myth 26. The universe is expanding into something. If the universe is expanding, what's it expanding into? There must be some space or void it's growing into, right? This question assumes there's an outside to the universe. There isn't, or at least the question is meaningless. The universe isn't expanding into anything. Space itself is stretching. Imagine dots on a balloon. As you inflate it, the dots move apart, but they're not moving into any external space. The surface itself is expanding. The universe is all of space and time. There's no external arena for it to expand into. Asking what's outside the universe is like asking what's north of the North Pole. It's a category error. The question doesn't make sense within our physics. Myth 27. Wormholes are realistic ways to travel. Science fiction has trained us to think wormholes are plausible shortcuts through space. Theoretically, they're allowed by Einstein's equations, but the practical problems are absurd. First, they're unstable. They'd collapse instantly unless held open by exotic matter with negative energy, which probably doesn't exist. Second, you couldn't control where they go. Third, you might need more energy than exists in multiple star systems just to create one. Fourth, they might not allow anything to pass through before collapsing or destroying anything that tried. They're mathematically possible in the same way that a pencil could theoretically balance on its point forever. Physics allows it, but reality laughs at it.
Myth number 28. Comets are balls of ice. Comets are often described as dirty snowballs or icy bodies, giving the impression they're basically space ice cubes with some dirt mixed in. When we actually landed on one, 67P Churyumov-Gerasimenko with the Rosetta mission, we found they're more like icy dirt balls. Comets are actually more rock and organic compounds than ice. The ice is there, but it's not the dominant component. The nucleus is incredibly dark, absorbing most light rather than reflecting it like ice. They're porous and fragile with weird, rugged shapes. The beautiful tails aren't the comet melting, they're ice sublimating, going directly from solid to gas and carrying dust particles along. They're not pristine frozen relics, they're dark, dusty, crumbly objects that happen to have some ice. Myth number 29. Light years measure time. This is more of a linguistic confusion. People hear light year and think it's a unit of time, like a year's worth of light. It's actually a unit of distance, how far light travels in 1 year. Light moves at about 300,000 kilometers per second. In 1 year, it covers about 9.46 trillion kilometers. That's 1 light year. When we say a star is 10 light years away, we mean it's 94.6 trillion kilometers away, and the light we see from it now left the star 10 years ago. It's like saying, I drove for 3 hours when someone asks how far away something is, except light always travels at the same speed, so it's actually a useful distance measurement. Time and distance get weird when you're dealing with cosmic scales. Myth number 30. We'll colonize Mars in the next decade. Every few years, someone announces we'll have a Mars colony within 10 years. Elon Musk, NASA, various billionaires, they all promise imminent Martian civilization. The reality is far more complicated and distant. Mars has no magnetic field, so radiation bombardment is severe. The atmosphere is 1% as thick as Earth's, and mostly CO2. Temperatures average minus 60 degrees Celsius. Dust storms can cover the planet. There's no liquid water on the surface. Soil may be toxic with perchlorates. Communication has a 20-minute delay. Any colony would require solving dozens of engineering problems we haven't cracked yet. Radiation shielding, food production, manufacturing, medical care, psychological effects of isolation, and maintaining life support systems with no backup from Earth for years. We'll get there eventually, but next decade is marketing, not science. Mars colonization is a multi-generational project we're barely starting to understand. So there you have it. 30 space myths that movies, pop culture, and wishful thinking have drilled into our heads. The universe is weird enough without the fiction we've added to it.
The real cosmos is more complex, more fascinating, and infinitely stranger than Hollywood ever imagined. Which of these shattered your childhood the hardest? Drop your existential crisis in the comments below. And if your brain feels like it just completed a spacewalk without a helmet, hit that like button and subscribe for more reality checks about everything you thought you knew about the universe.